Hey there, my name is AJ Pickett and I make videos about role-playing games, and lots of them. I upload twice a week with a live stream every weekend. You can find me on Subscribestar, Patreon and Discord, Facebook and Twitter. Also there's an option to join the channel as a member, and I welcome any questions you have in the comment section down below. As always, if you like this video or this channel, hit that like button and subscribe if you'd be so kind. Today we are delving into some more spelljammer lore, and I have to say it, there are a lot of ridiculously over-the-top Mary Sue Dragon Ball Z power level over 9000 stuff in Spelljammer as a cosmic setting that will cause a few problems if you are the kind of dungeon master who needs to maintain balance in your campaigns at all costs. Because today I'm going to talk about the Reigar and the aesthetics and the zodar. Those of you who know what those words mean are no doubt smiling right at this moment. Prepare yourself, sit back, grab a tasty beverage, we're about to get deeply nerdy. In the vast expanse of the multiverse, there are worlds without number in stunning variation. There are also ancient and mysterious species that are surrounded in fantastical rumours. One of these is the Reigar, a very rarely encountered humanoid species that seem to have engineered themselves into their version of perfection. Almost always encountered alone, the Reigar are tall and lightly built humanoids with reddish blonde hair and a very androgynous look which, although their features are quite human, gives them an inhuman air. However, that is barely noticeable compared to the fact that they are permanently illuminated by a glowing aura of magical light in which float sparkling colour motes that constantly shift colours in random patterns, some say in relation to their emotions. The startling display is referred to by the Reigar as their glory, and considering it acts like a permanent ward against magical effects and physical attacks, it's hard to argue the name. It's glorious. Also, it's their method of reproduction. Two Reigar simply come together, their glories merge, and from that brilliance, a new Reigar life form emerges. Each Reigar garbs and decorates themselves in a highly individual, spectacular display of garments, tattoos, jewellery, makeup, hairstyles, and wondrous items that create visual, auditory, and olfactory effects. Again, the gender of the Reigar has nothing to do with the spectacular adornment. They make no distinction between sexes or social status. It's purely an expression of their creativity. They consider life to be an artistic expression. Everything is or has some part to play in the artistry of existence. They value art and artistry above all else, and their long lives are spent in pursuit of their artistic ideals, whatever they may be. They are a highly self-involved species that will flatly refuse to do anything unless it has some style and panache. And they'll only do something if it is for an artistic expression of some kind. The more grand it is, the better. This is both amazingly good and horrifically bad. For example, they will not use a spell that simply blows something up. They will go out of their way to use a spell that will slowly and brutally destroy something. For example, favouring cloud kill over a fireball, so that the act can be watched and appreciated by those who witness it as a performance. They don't care that this causes undue suffering to victims. That's all part of the authenticity of the violence. To poison someone and witness the full emotional range of their death is an ideal to strive for. Reigar are highly intelligent, extremely creative, and have invented some of the most important technology in the multiverse. They are masters of spell magic and artifice. However, they care almost nothing for each other or most other humanoid life forms, including those who travel with them, living intimately close to them inside the Reigar's amazing bioengineered living spelljammer vessels called their aesthetics. Aesthetics are biological symbiotic creations of each individual Reigar. They use them for transportation and habitation. Some say they look kind of insectoid, providing total life support for an unlimited amount of time. The aesthetic have no intelligence of their own. All of its non-autonomous functions are directed by the Reigar who created it. In fact, if there's a significant change in the personality of the Reigar due to injury or spells, this also affects the aesthetics behavior, so we know that they are linked together intimately. Also, each is an artistic expression of its creator, of course, so no two of them are the same. Aesthetics may be bilaterally symmetrical, like two halves matching like a human body, divided from head to feet, radially symmetrical like a starfish, or they could have no discernible symmetry at all. While they are extremely fast and agile in the wild space within crystal spheres, they can't leave wild space and go out into the phlogiston flows like other ships do. The Reigar must therefore use a different method of travel for the larger multiverse of the prime material plane. The aesthetics do tend to have one feature in common, which is their feeding spike. This is thrust into living beings. Digestive fluids are injected and the aesthetic draws back any required nutrients. This feeding spike also serves as the boarding passage for the occupants inside the vessel. It can be slammed through the hull of another vessel fairly easily. The most potently offensive ability of the aesthetic, though, is an attack called the Jammer Scream. A spell-like ability with a range of 2,500 yards or 2,286 meters that just demolishes the ability of other spelljamming vessels to move by attacking the neural mass of any creatures on board. The result is that they either keel over with a massive migraine or they suffer a brain hemorrhage and possibly die. The effect works pretty much on every kind of spelljamming vessel, even the dwarven kind that run divine forges. The Jammer Scream will snuff the fires out and lay out the forge strokers before the aesthetic speeds in to grapple the ship, plunge its feeding spike inside and liquefy the crew. Very efficient and very difficult to defend against. Also, the Reigar have another ace up their sleeves in the form of the magical constructs they create. Rumour has it that the figurines of wondrous power we see in the game were originally created by the Reigar, and in fact, the kind you see in treasure piles and magic emporiums in worlds like Toril are nothing more than copies of the kind Reigar youngsters would create and play with as toys. The real deal that adult Reigar create come in a dizzying variety but can be encapsulated as being either the Helots, which are magical constructs that are very durable but otherwise perfectly emulate whatever creature the Reigar have sculpted them to perfectly resemble. And so you can just grab the stat block of whatever creature, increase its armor class and hit points a lot, and you're good to go. The other construct form is the formidable and amazing Shakti. Shakti are deceptively small, about palm-sized. They look like decoratively carved amulets that can be worn on a chain or a cord from the neck, or hung from a belt or sash or tucked into a pouch. Each is designed by the Reigar, so generally no two are exactly alike. They're a creative expression as always. They do tend to design them resembling creatures, and there's 3 creatures in particular that are a common motif. This is the dormant form of the Shakti, as a special command issued by its user and only by its user. It can transform into either a suit of armor or a form of transportation. With the transportation mode, the size of the Shakti increases to about 8 feet long, appearing a bit like a creature in a pose like it's leaping or flying, and the owner either sits on or stands on the Shakti, surfing it, and mentally wills it to fly with a movement speed of 50 feet per round. The armor mode transforms the Shakti into a suit of form-fitting +5 plate armor and a +5 weapon of some kind. It's very formidable. Typically a greatsword, and the material of the Shakti is made from, well, it resembles the same sort of very lightweight metal crystal the cosmic spheres of the prime material plane are made from. It's not that it's lightweight, it's just that it doesn't have gravity, which allows the Reigar to use their large martial weapons as light weapons. Even though the Reigar are a hell of a lot stronger than they look, they prefer to fight using their dexterity, as a combat is a dance for them. One they're very good at, but they don't seek out combat. In fact, they will send in their constructs and their servants first in almost every instance. Now, and the icing on the cake. Each Shakti imparts a different magical effect. Usually this is activated by the wearer of the armor bringing their fists together and then extending their hands to release and direct the magic. So you simply don't know what the hell is coming at you from moment to moment in combat with these things. In the hands of anyone who the Shakti was not created specifically for, it's just an inert and pretty carved crystal statuette. So players are extremely unlikely to ever get one of their own. There is a couple of ways that it could happen, but I'm certainly not going to just tell you. Reigar are served by an engineered race of clone-like green-haired 5'10" tall warrior women called the lakshu, who seem to originally have been a species that Reigar discovered and took a liking to as the perfect warrior elite bodyguards. They spend their lives now in servitude to the Reigar, training for combat and learning how to repair the fabulous creations of the Reigar, since something as dull as maintenance is simply not worth the Reigar's time and effort. Lakshu are always accompanied by 3 or more helot constructs, which operate in perfectly trained and disciplined concert. Lakshu are human-like, but they reproduce by parthenogenesis. Their infants literally grow from their bodies and separate, to be raised together in creches. Lakshu are comparable to humans but have a speed of 40 feet per round and the ability to fly into a rage like a barbarian. However, the Lakshu society, such as it is military in structure. Whenever 2 or more Lakshu are present in one place, one must be superior to the others. The strict hierarchy is maintained and each Lakshu knows their role within it without question. Before they came to serve the Reigar, they used to invade worlds, laying utter waste to countless civilizations in the multiverse. Now they only destroy whatever the Reigar unleash them on. They typically fight using the shakti and another light weapon they carry openly on their person at all times. They are naturally ambidextrous, dual-wielding weapon master fighters. Most of the precious shakti gifted to Lakshu will have either a panther, phoenix, or a dragon theme to its design. Another species connected to the Reigar are the mysterious traders known as the Arcane. You can learn more about them in the video on that race that I'll link on the screen here. But their relationship to the Reigar is both undeniable and yet completely perplexing. The Reigar seem to clearly be the race that created the first spelljammer helm. Now, I can't confirm if this is solid fact or not, but a very, very long time ago, in a sphere far, far away, the first helm or helm maker was created. It seems to now be in the possession of the arcane race. The helm maker produces seeds that grow into spelljamming helms, which the arcane then sell to their customers. All helms grown from the seeds of the first helm serve as arrays, stealing knowledge from the helmsmen who use them and transmitting them back to the arcane. It's rumoured that the first helm is directly responsible for an outbreak of catastrophic conflicts on the Reigar's original homeworld, and in a final event known as the Masterstroke, the entire world was destroyed and the Reigar dispersed into the prime material plane on board millions of the newly created aesthetic ships. Nobody knows if they can create new aesthetics or how many Reigar are left or how many died in their conflicts, or even if those conflicts are still raging to this day. It seems unlikely that they are. It seems very unlikely that the spelljammer helms are still being produced solely by the Reigar, as the race only ever create original artworks. They don't repeat their acts of creation in production lines, churning out copies endlessly. It may mean that the creation of the helm maker was orchestrated by the arcane race so that they could craft as many helms as they wanted, and the destruction of the Reigar homeworld was just deemed an unfortunate collateral damage that could not be avoided. Well, the Reigar are certainly not blameless. Their pursuit of art for art's sake led them to the total destruction of their world, using means of warfare never heard of before or since. Their search for the ultimate artistic expression of war was carried out by the Reigar, who were off-world in their aesthetics with no regard for those remaining on the ground. This is a classic example of the Reigar code of conduct: anything for art, nothing without style, and everyone for himself. Since this decimation of the race and the destruction of the homeworld, the few remaining Reigar have been wandering from sphere to sphere in search of artistic inspiration. As with most truly ancient species, the Reigar are the source of many a legend in the multiverse. It is said that in addition to teaching the elves and dwarves everything they know about craftsmanship and art, the arcane, who usually have total disdain for other species, treat the Reigar with deference and generally do what the Reigar tells them to do without question. In fact, on more than one occasion, arcane have been spotted on board the aesthetic ships. Some even say the Mind Flayers have a similar level of respect for the Reigar, a rumour that the species hotly contests, of course, particularly the rumours that say that the Reigar were the ones that bioengineered the first elithid tadpoles in the first place. Some even claim the Reigar created the humans. The Neogi refer to the Reigar as damned liars. The Reigar habitually ignore questions about these rumours. However, they will tell anyone who asks that they did not create the world-eating clockwork horrors. They consider them detestable bad art forms and refer to them as springheads. There's very little a bunch of adventurers could offer a Reigar that they don't already have in material wealth or value. They are a very long-lived species that have travelled far and wide, who are very self-obsessed. However, they do crave an audience for their art and are prone to being influenced by flattery. They will also negotiate passage to other crystal spheres on board other vessels on occasion, particularly really massive ships capable of transporting an aesthetic vessel within its hold, kept in stasis by the Reigar magic. But that's only when the Reigar don't have their own objects, which are called the talismans of the spheres, magic items of nearly artifact levels of power capable of teleporting between crystal spheres. Now, Before you write these beings off as just another aloof bunch of super powerful space wastrels, they are a hell of a lot of fun to throw into the works of a campaign that seems to be going according to plan. Player characters may find themselves deeply and dangerously involved in the Reigar's latest epic performance happening, with deadly results if they're not very careful. Reigar are well known to do very chaotic and seemingly meaningless things, all in their obsession with art. They might send a formidable force of lakshu just to steal one epic gemstone from an ancient dragon's hoard. They may cast some form of ritual magic that literally steals the dreams of an entire city full of people, causing all sorts of weird side effects. Oh yes, and then there's the Zodar. The Reigar are said to have created them a very long time ago, probably as part of the expression of ultimate warfare which destroyed their homeworld. We don't know. These days the Zodar are incredibly rare, much like the Reigar, and due to the nature of the Zodar, they don't confirm or deny the rumours about this. Zodar are an incredibly powerful race of bipeds. They're all identical, standing exactly 6 feet tall. They resemble smooth, deep black suits of obsidian plate armour. This is actually their exoskeleton, which is comprised of a material that seems very similar to the crystal shells, the crystal spheres. They have no facial features except for 2 small slits which probably contain sensory organs. They speak by vibrating the air around them, but they do so very, very rarely and only when absolutely necessary, because they have a limited amount of times that they can ever speak during the course of their very long lives. Zodar are absolute loners. They never work with or against each other. They are most commonly encountered fairly close to the crystal spheres, and many sages wonder if they are somehow involved in defending and even repairing crystal shells. They don't experience, or at least they never express, pain, fear, joy, or other emotions, and inside their nigh invulnerable outer armour, they are composed of dense muscle fibres, making them incredibly strong. For example, even though they weigh over 500 pounds, they can leap 50 feet straight up in the air, dash at 120 feet per round, and simply grab a regular humanoid and fold them up in all the wrong directions with hideous results. They're extremely durable, impervious to magic, fire, acid, poison, energy attacks, and they don't need to eat or breathe. They will run into combat, absorbing hits and trading powerful melee blows, sometimes holding 2 weapons, other times just using their bare hands. They are able to be damaged by physical attacks of sufficient force, but generally speaking, don't count on them going down in a fight. They just are really, really tough. They also contain limited uses of magic. Some 3 spells they're able to cast, and 1 wish spell that they can also cast, but only once in their lifetimes. Zodar deal with all lesser races in a very aloof manner. Even if they join an adventuring party, they often walk at the back of the group and do nothing else, not even fight. More than one party has died while the Zodar stood by like a mysterious black statue witnessing their end. When a Zodar does perform some significant action, it's almost always surprising to those around it. A Zodar may suddenly enter a fray, marching toward a single victim, destroy him, and then freeze in place once the task is completed. The ship may be nearly destroyed when a Zodar acts, hefting the main mast and tearing it out and hurling it at the enemy like a great lance. They're just extreme. Right, smooth sailing folks. Please hit the like button if you made it this far. Subscribe if you like what I do. Check out my Subscribestar or Patreon links for all the full scripts for these videos. Buy some Teespring merchandise, wear your geek with pride. Let me know if you want to hear more about the weird and wonderful collections of Spelljammer races. And as always, thanks for listening, and I'll be back with more for you very soon.